I have 3 goalkeepers who really inspired me. Jens Lehmann was my idol because he played for Schalke and was really progressive in the way he developed the position in Germany. I also have a lot of respect for all that Oliver Kahn achieved with the national team. Outside Germany, I would add that Edwin van der Sar was a big role model. Under Thatcher, who ruled us with an iron rod, great art was made. Amazing designers and musicians. Acid House was born. Very colorful and progressive. I think we'd be crazy to do anything to the integrity of our policy package, which is progressive, and really dealing with the key social and environmental issues that we face. We're not about to ditch our commitment to nuclear disarmament, for example, to somehow make ourselves more electable. There is something uncannily adaptive about anti-Semitism, the way it can hide, unsuspected, in the most progressive minds. There are 3 classes of men, the retrograde, the stationary, and the progressive. Every progressive movement has been built on the anger, needs, and aspirations of the emerging major class. Our message to leaders from every continent was simple: California has succeeded on climate and clean energy because we've emphasized local, human values and built a coalition that includes community and environmental leaders, working families, and communities of color, as well as unions and progressive business. In other fitness pursuits, you may have learned to go through the motions first and perfect your form second. In Pilates, it's the other way around. You learn to control your abs first and then proceed through a series of more progressive movements. At all times, you should feel in control of your body. Progressive art can assist people to learn not only about the objective forces at work in the society in which they live, but also about the intensely social character of their interior lives. Ultimately, it can propel people toward social emancipation. We have to start grounding our policies in facts and recognize that a strong economy is critical for funding progressive priorities. I was in an organization called Progressive Labor Party and International Committee Against Racism, and I started out helping to organize a farm workers' union in Central California. There's enormous progressive activism and, more often than not, success at the grassroots level. Everything from living wage campaigns to efforts to finance our elections are having terrific success. A man is a method, a progressive arrangement, a selecting principle, gathering his like to him, wherever he goes. Progressive, radical, or even revolutionary change has always come from below. Journalism is what maintains democracy. It's the force for progressive social change. Business can be a source of progressive change. If someone is going to permit me to make a publication that is politically and culturally progressive and not tell me to put their favorite movie stars on the cover, if I get to do what I want in an honest way, as I did in the beginning at Colors, then I'm going to do it. As a Westerner, the child of civil rights and anti-war activists, I embraced Islam not in abandonment of my core values, drawn almost entirely from the progressive tradition, but as an affirmation of them. A Soviet man is a product of invisible changes, degradation and progressive deformation. Breaking the chain of those changes is hard. Perhaps they are irreversible. I think on-stage nudity is disgusting, shameful and damaging to all things American. But if I were 22 with a great body, it would be artistic, tasteful, patriotic and a progressive religious experience. Addiction is a crazy disease. It's a progressive disease when it's not dealt with. It don't care who it takes, and it takes it all. You wind up losing your house, your home, your reputation. Unless our conception of patriotism is progressive, it cannot hope to embody the real affection and the real interest of the nation. The modern progressive movement believes that dissenting language is objectionable, which then removes the brakes between anger and violence. Many interviewers, when they come to talk to me, think they're being progressive by not mentioning in their stories any longer that I'm black. I tell them, don't stop now. If I shot somebody you'd mention it. As long as you're having fun and being positive and progressive, I'm going to say you're living a Zumbeo lifestyle. Law is stable, the societies we are speaking of are progressive. The greater or less happiness of a people depends on the degree of promptitude with which the gulf is narrowed. Journalism is about results. It's about affecting your community or your society in the most progressive way. The reactionary is always willing to take a progressive attitude on any issue that is dead. The history of modern art is also the history of the progressive loss of art's audience. Art has increasingly become the concern of the artist and the bafflement of the public. Naturally, when one makes progressive steps, there may be some who see it as a betrayal of their goals and interests. If the world ran the way a crew runs a set, we'd have a better, more progressive world. One of the remarkable things about Donald Trump is that he didn't just beat the progressive establishment, he also beat the conservative establishment. Two political tribes that dominated Washington for half a century were defeated in the space of one election campaign. For reasons historic, aesthetic, and political, we Jews are most attuned to the anti-Semitism of the far right, and we find the most sympathy among our progressive allies when these are our attackers. Reggae has a philosophy, you know, it's not just entertainment. There's an idea behind it, a way of life behind the music, which is a positive way of life, which is a progressive way of life for better people. When people do marriage right, they don't complain so much, and so their voices are silenced by the rabble of promiscuous charlatans peddling their pathetic worldview as progressive. People do not realize that Alzheimer's is not old age. It is a progressive and fatal disease, and staggering amounts of people develop Alzheimer's every day. In the child, consciousness rises out of the depths of unconscious psychic life, at first like separate islands, which gradually unite to form a continent, a continuous landmass of consciousness. Progressive mental development means, in effect, extension of consciousness. Measures must always in a progressive society be held superior to men, who are after all imperfect instruments, working for their fulfillment. 60 years ago I knew everything, now I know nothing. Education is a progressive discovery of our own ignorance. If you're a progressive, you really should be a feminist, because it's about equality, it's about respect, it's about making the best of the world that we have. I think that prog rock is the science fiction of music. Science fiction speculates on what the future might be and look like and how we'll get there, and yet there's always a central theme of humanity. Or there should be. Progressive rock has the same concept of exploration into the parts of the music world that hasn't been explored. When disco came around the first time, there was this real core of progressive thinking and a positive lyrical content about freedom, the possibilities of love, change and expression. Education is a progressive discovery of our own ignorance. Piaget is correct in assuming a culturally universal age development of a sense of justice, involving progressive concern for the needs and feelings of others and elaborated conceptions of reciprocity and equality. I'm involved in everything from highly progressive lighting systems to airline interiors. In the field of transportation I can go from the micro to the macro, architecture, transportation, industrial product design, right across the board. It's Russian dollism, because they all interrelate, one goes into the other. I began writing with Mike Pinder and eventually we went on to form a new band called the MB, which later became the Moody Blues, what I would call a progressive blues band. My father was a progressive farmer, and was always ready to lay aside an old plow if he could replace it with one better constructed for its work. All through life, I have ever been ready to buy a better plow. Ultimately, communism must be defeated by progressive political programs which wipe out the poverty, misery, and discontent on which it thrives. There are people out there who are into traditional country music, and for those people you have artists like Brad Paisley and Josh Turner and Alan Jackson. Then you have artists with a progressive style of country music, like myself and Eric Church and Luke Bryan and Miranda Lambert. The whole institution of marriage itself really has no place in a progressive society. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.